Hey everyone, my name is Talha. I'm the co-founder at Remotebase.com. I welcome you all to Masters of Tech podcast number 6. So today, Alberto Silveira has joined us. He's the head of engineering at LawnStarter, and he's also, and I'm pretty impressed, Alberto. So he's the author of the book, Building and Managing High Performance Distributed Teams. Alberto has worked with a lot of companies in his career, like he's scaled a lot of tech architectures, he's led large engineering teams, he's worked a lot with recruiting and retaining talent, he's worked a lot with cultural transformation. And something that really jumped at me, Alberto, from your profile is that you are an agile evangelist. So that's pretty interesting for me. So welcome to the podcast, Alberto. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and it's a pleasure to be here. I'm curious where you got that from. Isn't that ChatGPT?
So, by the way, I put a lot of your details through GPT because when I was preparing for content for the podcast, and at some point it said that Alberto Silveira is an agile evangelist. I don't know entirely what it means, but for me, I think it's some big words.
I need to talk with this ChatGPT and get that to
Maybe you're giving data to GPT already, like call me agile evangelist, call me agile evangelist. So
yeah, well, you know what I like to say is, any media is good, and if ChatGPT is saying that I'm like an agile evangelist, that's good. As long as you're talking about me, that's a good thing.
So I think you're in the right place because this podcast is going to be about you. So we'll be discussing your careers, and we'll be taking a lot of advices from you. So, like I said, Alberto is the head of engineering at LawnStarter. So, Alberto, could you quickly introduce yourself? Like, what do you do at LawnStarter? And then obviously we'll talk a lot about your book as well because I haven't read it yet, but I'm planning to read it in this week. But again, like we'd love to know your role in LawnStarter. What do you do? And
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm the head of engineering at LawnStarter, and for those that don't know what LawnStarter is, think about Uber. Uber connects a passenger to a driver, and there's a platform that does that middleman work. LawnStarter is the same thing. We're building the largest platform, or we're the only ones that can build outdoor services at scale. So we connect homeowners to home providers. So as an example, if you need mowing, bush trimming, lawn treatment, aeration, pool cleaning, gutter cleaning, whatever, like a power wash in your house, everything outside, like LawnStarter can actually help you. So my job has been, I'm actually turning 3 years now at LawnStarter, now in August. And when I got here, just the co-founder and a couple of other engineers, and my job is to come, bring the process, bring the maturity, bring the culture, help building the culture, so we can actually scale. Like the idea is really great, but how you take a company from point A to point B, and point B being like doing something at scale as we want to do, it requires a lot more than just technology. It requires like people behind under the hood. So how you do it, that's my job. So it's a mix of technology, process, and people. Same old.
100%.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing at LawnStarter. That's what I did on my previous job and the job before. So I've been doing that for a long time, getting into companies that is smaller, really great idea, really great products, and helping the company to achieve a successful exit and growth goals.
That's amazing. And you said same old. So, and I've again gone through your profile a lot of times. Pretty interesting. And I see that you've done it like a gazillion times, scaling teams, creating teams, recruiting people, retaining talent, and all of that. So, and then obviously you said that you've been working with LawnStarter for 3 years. So what's your idea about, staying in a company? Are you gonna stay here until it exits, or like what is the point when you feel like you're not needed in a company anymore? Like you've set up enough systems and you've played your part.
Very good question. Since my early days in life, I'm known for being a very persistent person.
Persistent. I like that.
I don't stop or I don't give up until I win. And when I join a company, of course, I do my diligence, I do my research, and I love joining companies with like big challenges and aspiration, or like trying to do something different. And that was like, just to give you like one example, different example. When I joined Schoology, which was my previous company, which was a completely different industry. So LawnStarter is marketplace industry. Schoology was education, ed tech. Prior to that was fintech. Prior to that was healthcare. So I like to work like a different industry and always learn something different. And what fascinates me is the North Star for that particular company. And you get that from the founders. You if you really believe that you actually can touch the stars, you will. It's a lot of work, and you're gonna have to make like really hard decisions. Some harder than others, but it is possible to get where you want. But you have to have persistence. Things will go wrong, and that's the only way you're gonna actually achieve success. When things go wrong, when everything is actually working, that's now when you get better and when you improve. And if you have founders on the very early days of like companies that understand that, I guarantee you they're gonna be successful. And that's the kind of company that I want to join. Schoology had like the goal, the mission of advance what's possible in education. Just like, and we did it. We did it. We got acquired by the largest education company in the world, which is PowerSchool. And it was an incredible journey. Right during pandemic, where we had to scale 800% overnight because every kid went to have school from home.
Exactly.
In my teams, that was actually what inspired me to write the book. We just worked like a very well-oiled machine, like with respect, empowerment, like all that culture was, we were able to achieve that. Fast forward to LawnStarter, again, like very, very good idea, completely different industry. But guess what? It doesn't change much. That's why I said the same old, same old. It's
100%, yeah.
It's the people, is the process. Is like, it doesn't matter if you're like in the same physical off down the road in the street or across the ocean, or like you go everywhere. You can get good people and you build that, but you have to invest. That doesn't happen overnight. You don't have like the human connections overnight. So, but once you get it, it took me about like 2 years ish to actually build that sentiment where people belong. So if you have like a startup, if you have a company or like any company that you want to build a product and you're thinking to have results overnight, immediately, I like to say that there's no magic. You need to have like the people to understand your North Star, and that's how you get there. For me, I say the same old, same old. I know that it's hard for the investors or the exec team sometimes to see some, like people get anxious. Like, I want the results yesterday. I want to invest today and have like triple tomorrow. Maybe that happened at some point with like Bitcoin, but building software is not like that.
It does not happen anymore with crypto. But Alberto, important question here. Like, we'll obviously touch base on your book, and I saw that pattern in your profile as well. Like you've worked with a lot of industries, and when you work as a manager, when you're working with one industry, you get the hang of it. You learn all the jargon and everything there, and then once you try to scale there, isn't it very hard to, move to another industry and start from scratch? I know at the end of the day, we are building software, we're building solutions, but, it's really hard to understand a new industry. So from a managing or a manager's standpoint, so what are your thoughts here? Like, is it a good idea to, switch so often?
Yeah, I stay like maybe 4 or 5 years in each company. It's enough for you to learn, but I understand the transition. The transition, there's a lot to learn, and that's great. You want people that actually come with fresh eyes, different perspectives, and there's always something in common. I find the healthcare, edtech, marketplace, fintech, there's always something in common. There's always something that you can bring on board. But myself as a leader, I need to understand how things are working, the processes. I need to understand people in many different levels and layers, but I do not necessarily need to understand the details about the industry itself. Remember, I'm the head of engineer, and yes, I will learn. I will ask questions. I'm a very curious person. So as long as you don't get annoyed on answering questions, I'm pretty confident that I can do it. I find it interesting when companies want to hire like the head of engineering, or like and ask for like industry specific leaders. It's very interesting because you need to build a team that understands like the business logic and understand the technology. The leader itself, I think it's, in my experience, is like leaders that will be asking questions are better than leaders that will tell people what to do because they have the experience. Most of my work is actually observing and asking questions and putting people to move towards to a direction that we want as the business, versus bringing a leader that will say, I'm going to tell you what to do because I have like 30 years of experience, 20 years of experience in this industry. So I don't know. It's a matter of preference, I guess, or like perspectives, I should say.
100%.
But yeah, I think if I had to summarize, it's been working well for me. I love asking questions to my teams. I love to focus on building a very humanized team, and that's where I invest most of my time. And then, yes, I do bring people that understand the business and the logic and the technical aspects of it. So
100%. And I agree to that. Like, asking questions is probably the most important thing a leader can ever do. So Alberto, you're also the author of the book, Building and Managing High Performance Distributed Teams. So what is this book about? Like, I'm pretty interested to read it, but I would love to hear your thoughts. Like, what is the book about? How did you come up with the idea? And, how is it important for managers?
Interesting enough, this is a very long title. I'm not sure if you noticed it. I get tired by building and managing high performance distributed teams. I will tell you this. I never thought that I would ever write a book. I did computer science when I went to college, and I've been like a developer for many years. And I went through, all like the path from being like a junior developer to a software engineer to a senior software engineer to a lead to a director, senior director, until I one day, I would say this: I don't want to be the head of engineering. That's what I used to say. No. Leave me here with the technology and code. But naturally, I gravitated to people, and that's because my personality, who I am, and I combine that with my technical expertise, and that's what I believe. If you ask me, what made me like a stronger leader, and why do I actually say that I'm a stronger leader? I have people following me for 6 different companies, 5 different companies, 4 different companies. Like wherever I go, I have like people keep following me.
Oh, nice.
I make jokes like, don't you get tired of following me? But I think I like to treat people respectfully. I treat people, well, and then that's why they like to follow. And then I decide to put that on my book. Like it's not like the theory of something and like we're gonna be changing the universe and create a. I don't have a magical wand. I'm not a magician. I'm not David Copperfield. I'm like a human being that studied computer science, love about like technology, and work really hard to be where I am. And then I decided to write this in this book. So the book is about each chapter brings it brings words and examples of how to build a high performance teams. So it can be if you are a leader or if you're like an engineer or if like this doesn't matter where you're like in your career. If you're even a product manager or a product design, you would enjoy reading this book. And the title is I got my like the publisher have like a lots of saying like and like the marketing stuff, and it was right in the middle of like the pandemic when I published the book, and but anyways I said it's fine, but it's about putting people together to achieve a collective goal. It's about like writing software, but not just be worried about the code deployed. It's about measuring productivity, but moving away from code activities. It's like zooming out from it and putting people first. I have this saying on the book, and every time I'm gonna go give a talk or like I'm on stage, it's one team, one heart. And I truly believe on that. It's a very humanizing approach. Of course, you won't build anything only with love. Even though I'm a very passionate person, you build with like the love, but a lot of process and methodologies and data. You combine all of those things. That's when you build a great product. That's what the book is about.
Yeah, but I see that you don't agree with the title. You don't like the title.
I do agree with the title. I just think it's a little bit too long. I would say this is just like high performance teams. That's what this is about, like any team. And in fact, if you see like on the cover, and you can find that in Amazon, where books are sold, you find my book, like just searching my name. If you don't want to type the whole title, you can search by the name. I use a lot of metaphors. I'm an English second language speaker, as you probably know.
Yeah.
Metaphors it's something that make it easier for people to understand. What I realize is that that's not only for second people that they speak English as a second language. So in the book, I use a lot of sailing. It's like boats. Like building software teams, it's like you being in a regatta. So if you can picture and visualize how a regatta works, I have like, depending on the size of the boat, but you may have like 7 to 10 people. Every person has its role on the boat. Each role is important. Every work is valuable. Now you bring that to software and software teams. Yeah, if you're a quality engineer, if you're DevOps, if you're back-end, if you're front-end, if you're product manager, if you're a designer, if you're like a UX researcher, you're all in the same boat trying to achieve a collective goal. So that I bring the whole idea how to organize teams, how big teams should be. It's incredible how many companies still have teams of one, which by definition, even a dictionary is not even a team. Oh, I mean, I just decide the project. And then you wonder where the investment goes and what's the likelihood for that to work. Minimum to not. So, but anyways, I bring those things on the book as well.
100%. And by the way, that's obviously not surprising for me because when I was going through the summary, so it did mention that you've used a lot of metaphors. And then I instantly started to think like why metaphors are important. So the other day I was reading an article, and I'm not 100% sure how true is that, but I read somewhere that Warren Buffett uses a lot of metaphors in, when he's communicating to the team, and then that's a very powerful team when you're communicating with people, when you're talking to people, when you're working with people, all of that. So is it really important that these metaphors, the way you use it, when you're leading and all? Because probably and I haven't heard a lot of leaders say or talk in metaphors, or talk about why and how metaphors are important. So what are your thoughts? Like, are they important?
Well, everyone talks about diversity. I want like a more diverse team. I want more like, but people say that for very specific reasons. Unfortunately, many times political reasons instead of actually the true meaning of it. And I think what metaphors is nothing more than embracing diversity, embracing people that think differently, embracing people that have different perspectives, different languages and accents and all that kind of stuff, and allowing them to convey what they want to say. So just to give you like an example, myself at home, I speak Portuguese. My wife and I, we are like Brazilians, we speak Portuguese.
Same.
And
Urdu at home.
Even then, speaking the very same language, our mother language, we still don't understand each other many times. And that's not unique to us. So why is that? Well, there's a gap in communication. And why there's a gap in communication? Well, because first of all, we are humans, and humans are not perfect. And I think where the metaphors come, it's just a way to better describe your intentions on what you want. So I say in pure English or in pure Portuguese what I want, and then I give like an example, like imagine, like the imagination that comes with metaphors, I think is what closes the communication gap. So when you ask me like, are metaphors important? I think any strategy that can help close the communication gap, that can make humans to achieve their goals, I'm down for it. I think that's super important. So that's how I see it, and that's how I try to apply. I have like a whole chapter in the book that talks about the choice of words matter. And now that we're kind of all distributed and remote, we talk like in Slack, we talk like always synchronous, and we are using words. But are the words that you are trying to say the words that the person, the audience is actually receiving it? Many times people don't see, like even like an asynchronous communication, you can be rude, you can be unpolite, and depending on the kind of personality that you have, if you're like if you think about like the disc personality kind of stuff, and if you're like more influencer or analytical, whatever, you're gonna communicate differently, and that creates the gap. And then if you have mechanisms of closing that gap, you're gonna have like you're gonna be increasing the likelihood to have people having a better understanding and moving forward in whatever you're trying to achieve. Does that make sense?
But it does. But my follow-up question, I guess, would be like, using metaphors, is that an immigrant leader thing, or do you know for a fact that it's effective? Like, do you have data to prove it?
Well, first question, if it's an immigrant thing. I don't know how to answer that question. And I'm not sure if it's an immigrant or it's a personality thing. Because I've seen Native Americans actually using metaphors, actually some...
Oh, they love you. Yeah.
And it works. the reason I started with it was supernatural. It was just like I didn't know the word or how to say certain things, like to construct the sentence. So then I would have, well, imagine this, or like look at this,
exactly.
And then that naturally started developing, and many times would be just like the words and people would get it, but it wasn't like a saying in English. And then people would laugh, and because they would laugh, now they would actually try to say that again, and then by the point they got it because it was something different. So I don't know. I don't think it's a cultural thing. I think this is more like a personality on each one of us, and if we decided, I think every person will find their way to try to convey.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would say is the pure language, straight to the point, sometimes may sound as like the most clear, but like examples. I think humans learn with examples, visualizing, picturing stuff, and then I think like those mechanisms help the communication and closing the communication gap, not only in teams but in our personal lives as well.
Is there a metaphor you use in every company?
In every
or you've been using? So is there a metaphor that you've used in every company you've joined?
Yeah, I mean, you keep building and on top of it. In this company right now, LawnStarter, I came up with a new one that I will certainly bring to the next one, because it's I typically like metaphors that actually are around like food. Everyone, doesn't matter where you are in the world, doesn't matter where you came from, we can eat food. What you like, what you don't like, and like how is the food in Brazil where I'm from, or like where in Pakistan where you are, or like in US, like I love food wherever I go. But I built this metaphor that explains how to measure the productivity of software teams using a restaurant metaphor. Think about this, like people in the kitchen, the guests coming, the dishes being served, the restaurant being profitable, the waiter getting the food and bringing the food to the table. Any similarity that with CI/CD, like product engineering, actually building the dishes, delivering that to customers, maybe bringing a dish to production, might be delivering code to production. That's what I try to say. You always try to get the ROI. And then when I realized, my CFO said, oh, wait a minute. So all this time, you've been saying that it doesn't matter if we invest more, adding more engineers, because we need to fix our CI/CD because we are producing a lot of dishes, but we cannot deliver those dishes. I said, you got it. Now we're talking metaphor with the CEO, with investors, like using a restaurant, and now people are understanding 100%. Where we need to invest and why things maybe, like we are rushing too much on the production of those dishes, but when the food gets to the customer, it's not actually what the customer ordered. So now I need to send that dish back to the kitchen. What is that? It's a bug coming back. It's generating an interrupt. Now I'm gonna have to have somebody else stop doing what they're doing. So this is a good example of like a metaphor, like telling a story on how to build high performance teams, like where to invest and how to communicate. So as a CTO, 100%. I think that's pretty useful.
And I find it very interesting because most of the times when you're working with the higher management, being a leader, and then you also have to work your colleagues, higher management does not understand what's going on. Like they would never get it, like what CI/CD pipelines are, what APIs are, how does backend get built, what is all that about. So because I think that's a good catch. It's a very good idea to use metaphors.
Because there's a communication gap.
There's a communication gap, exactly.
The CEO, they may have like different backgrounds, and so is the board of investors. They have different backgrounds. They don't understand like the nuances of building software. That's like my job, or our job as a CTO. So, and that's where the metaphor comes. So, but you don't need to understand about CI/CD and all that kind of stuff, but you care about if you are delivering the dishes and if customers are coming, paying, and increasing the revenue of the restaurant. So we can even maybe open like a different restaurant. Now we have a sushi restaurant, and now we're gonna have like a pasta restaurant. It's the same restaurant serving different lines of food. It's a different product. You wanna invest like in a second line of product, but we are struggling with our sushi line of product. So why we don't fix this first? Like because they understand everyone shares the same goal, which is growing the business. But how can we communicate effectively about all these topics? Where to invest? Why some things take longer? And where is the problem? So that's where like the metaphor comes from.
100%. And like one last thing about metaphors, I know we've been discussing this a lot, but do you think this can also help in presentation? So one of the things that, so I meet with a lot of managers, and one of the things they completely dread is when they have to present something to the higher management. Like, in those meetings, they don't know how to communicate, or they start spitting out a lot of jargon, and people get turned off. So do you think using jargons and using these relatable examples in these presentation and serious meetings can also help?
I think it can help, but you have to be cautious of not trying to open like the metaphor Pandora box where now everyone don't get it. So metaphor, as everything else in life, if it's too much, no good. If it's too little, probably you're not trying to get where you want. So the right dosage, and the right timing and the right moments, you can make your presentation, the audience to understand what you are trying to convey. And I think there is, as everything else, a limit and like a balance. So it's case by case, but I think a couple during a presentation to actually help and convey. And metaphors could be like the spoken language, but it could also be, you can use like whatever image or like a joke or whatever that can actually make that metaphor to be easily be understandable. But yeah, I would say try to leverage it, try to make things easy, like less is more. That's the thing. Like don't think that is if you can make things super easy to everyone all the times, and put that in a easy way, and learn about your audience, see which level they are, and then you calibrate and take from there like how to use it. That's what I say to myself. That's the rule that I try to follow, and I hope that helps you as well.
100%. And thank you for that, Alberto. So you did mention the word remote personality, like it jumped at me during this conversation. And one of the things that happens to us a lot is, so Remotebase is completely remote. Like we have people working from I think more than 35 different cities from all around the world, 6 or 7 countries, and we all work remotely. We don't have an office space. So and one thing, and I've been a remote worker myself all my life. I've never gone to the office, or I've never worked out of an office. One of the things that happens all the time is like engineers, or even the managers or engineering managers or what have you. So sometimes they work really well as a part of remote team, when it comes to contributing to the code base, contributing to the task, managing Asana or Jira, what have you. But one thing that engineers really don't care about or don't focus on was creating that online persona. Like, we are humans, we have a life apart from work, and this is who we are, this is what we do. So is there anything mentioned in your book that relates to it, or that gives a direction here, like what should people do about, how do they go about creating an online presence, creating online personalities, creating remote personalities, so that it's easier to connect with their remote coworkers?
I think you're gonna love the book. I really think it's
I'm keen on
absolutely,
that.
and that's the heart of the book. It's
Mhm,
you will not find like a list of bullet points of magic things to do and how to create uh, a distributed or like people like in different locations where they
mhm,
gonna love everything about it like overnight. What you're
mhm,
gonna find instead is yes, a sequence of things that you can do, or like either a process or your attitude as a leader, or like how you want to do things
mhm,
that will touch people in a different way, that will help create that feeling of belonging.
mhm,
The way that I don't want like anyone on my team just for the sake of writing code. I want people
mhm,
that believe on what I'm doing, that believe on my mission, believe on the purpose that we have,
mhm,
and then we live by it. Many companies have like the vision, the mission, and the purpose, and you ask anyone, no one knows what that is, right? Like when you are hiring people, you don't talk about that. In fact, when you are hiring people, you use that very traditional code hiring process.
mhm,
What is that trying to achieve, right? I like to bring people to my teams
mhm,
the same way that I would invite you or any other friend or any other person to my house. I will actually welcome you. And if I actually
mhm,
make you uncomfortable,
mhm,
I'm not doing a good job as a leader and creating the culture. First, I need to make you comfortable so you can give
mhm,
your best in an interview. And then you can
mhm,
come to my team. That's the entry door for you to be building a team, is to interview and bring people, right? So
mhm,
and then like bringing people is one thing, retaining people is a different thing. And what the book brings is like a combination of like uh, techniques and words and ways that you can actually build a high performance team, because all those things are equally important. Oh, it's better to retain, it's better to hire. It's like no. Like as the head of engineering, I need to be
mhm,
worried about all these things. It's how to bring, how to retain, and how to make them work in the best way possible towards to
mhm.
a collective. What I like to say on the book, North Star, as I'm looking, as I use like a lot of like the regatta boating kind of stuff.
Mhm,
So, long story short, and to answer your question, yes, the book brings a lot of how to bring that sensing of belonging. I even talk what's the difference between remote and
mhm,
distributed. There's a difference there,
mhm,
um, and I think that's the concept that I wrote in the book. As I see the difference, is not you may be using the word remote
mhm.
and doing the things that I say, so everyone has the terminology, but also, I heard that if you write in a book, it becomes true, or if ChatGPT says it's true. So I said like a distributed team is different than remote. So and it's written in a book. Let's say if so, I say it's true.
Yeah, yeah, because the internet says that. But Alberto, real quick, you've mentioned this like phrase "feeling of belonging" like two times, like in the last 5 minutes. How is it possible in a remote culture? Even I know, like if the project is pretty interesting for an engineer, they would sign up for that. They'll start working for it. But if something if some downturn happens or something's not well and they cannot meet with the founders, they cannot meet with their colleagues, they physically are in their own space and all. So how can we achieve that feeling of belonging? It does die out, eventually, or it has to die out eventually if you're working remotely.
Yeah, well, very good question, and uh, I think the first step, well, if we agree that we want to create that sense of belonging and shared purpose, and that's how we're going to be building better products and achieving company goals. I have my team all over the place, different locations. So we don't have a physical office at LawnStarter.
Oh, you don't?
We don't.
That's amazing.
We don't.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And I will tell you this, it's possible to create the sense of belonging. At Schoology, we had one in New York City. And then we started, I was the one actually saying, okay, you just had a kid, stay from home. Like, that's important. Like, that is, you're doing something important in your life there. Your commute is too long. Like New York, everyone is, commute can get crazy. So I started building that way prior to the pandemic. Like, I've been doing like high performance distributed teams for many, many, many years, like yourself. I've been in the office, but I also been in remote, and I also distributed now. But according to the definitions that I have written on the book. But my teams, like you asked me how, I do simple things, I try to plan to have minimal budget to actually take care of people. Regardless of where you are. If we achieve like a project, when we achieve a project milestone, when it's a really important holiday in your country, when we are doing like the 10 years anniversary swagger kind of stuff, I treat every single person equally. When I'm talking about promotions, I'm not looking only for my full time. I'm talking for like the best people. Best people get promoted. I don't care which agreement I have with you. You might be a contractor, you might be a full-time. Contractor is working and delivering better results, and you deserve it. I will not promote a full-time just for the sake it's a full-time. Like high-performance teams, you need to value the best. And regardless who you are, where you are, and if I need to give like a small swagger, if I need to give you a bonus, if I need to give you a raise, if I need to give you, that's belonging. Like, I'm doing my best, and there's no like, oh, you cannot do. There was a company, I actually mentioned this. I didn't mention on the book. There was like, when you have the Zoom calls and you have like the multiple faces. There was literally like a next. Literally like an X to the people's face. And I said, oh my goodness, what does that mean? Does it mean that they're going to be fired? No. That was just to differentiate contractors from full-time. So that is a good example. Seriously. That is an example of what not to do. Oh, because there's the law and there's this, we need to... This is like HR needs to modernize. Like the laws, if that's the case, it needs to modernize. We talk about diversity, but we don't implement diversity. We treat people differently. So the first step, if you want to build the sense of belong, start treating people equally. And then you're gonna get the belong. And then people will respond accordingly to that, and they will be committed. They will give the best version of themselves. So I do a lot of that on my teams. Guess what? It works.
It works. People first.
Just like those things that mom and dad teach us, or when we are kids, treat people with respect. Like, doesn't matter if the president or like the doorman. Just treat people equally. So if you're giving something for one, giving something for another one, just do it. And it could be a simple T-shirt. If you give to your US team and you don't give for like everybody else, how you think those people will feel? So being 100% distributed you need to be equal.
Yeah, and I'm still like wondering what plugin allows you to put across on a video on Zoom.
This is just one example. I mentioned about that in the book. Start watching what your company does to bring you equality and what your company does that differentiates people based on where they are, and of course, anything that you can think of, like to bring humanization to the work environment. If you have the budget to once a year bring people together, do it.
Yeah.
It will be one of the best investments you can do.
100%. And I've started to see a lot of companies even do that. So a lot of our customers at Remotebase, they work directly with the engineers. And I think I've seen 2 or 3 companies having their retreat, and they would invite everybody from Remotebase with their core team. So, and these are some of the best companies we've worked with. So I think from your point, putting people first and having that sort of equality within your team goes a long way, in my opinion. So that's a good insight. And thank you for sharing all of this, Alberto. That was pretty insightful for me. We're short on time, but I would want to hear your last thoughts on generally any advice for managers, because a lot of people who would be listening to this podcast are engineering managers. They are engineers, they are managers. Sometimes, they work as an IC as well. So, and most of these people work remotely, like a lot of these people. So what are some of the things you want them to focus on, apart from reading your book? By the way, they are going to read your book, but what are some of the things you would want the people to focus on, if they want to be successful remotely, from the office, anywhere?
I would say start with trust.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen many managers starting to command and control and trying to just control everything and data, and like all this, crazy stuff that you can do. Like step back.
Mm-hmm.
Try to see from the human point of view. Start with trust, and then you walk back from it. Trust your team. Trust the people that it works for you, works with you, and see if that will give you better results. Always measuring. Always keep an eye on the data. I'm not saying that you should not be looking at the data. I'm just saying focus on people, trust them, create the environment that will allow them to give the best version of themselves. And if you don't know if they're giving the best version of themselves, ask them. Joe Smith, are you giving, like, you think that you have the environment to give the best version of what you can do? I've done those surveys, and surprisingly, back in the day, I would say no. So why not? I thought that I was being like a great manager. Apparently, I was like very early and I was still learning. But getting the feedback from your people, trusting them, and tuning and making the decisions based on those variables will help you to become a best manager. But even better, will make people to enjoy the leader that they have. How many times you heard like people don't leave companies, they leave their managers?
A lot of memes everywhere on the internet.
So you need to learn your people. You need to know your people one by one, not from the technical point of view. Know them, like, take one-on-ones, not for like status about stuff. One-on-ones, do your one-on-ones about them, about how you can support them and their environment or whatever they are seeing. Having a conversation. If you talk about food, like talk about the weekend, get to know your people. I think great managers invest a lot of time knowing their folks versus okay managers or bad managers. They're only, as any other relationship, I will finish by saying this. Any relationship, you have to give to get it back. And if you only want give me, the likelihood and the odds for you to fail, doesn't matter which role you play, it's a lot higher if you start giving a bit first.
100%. Putting people first, that's spot on. By the way, I also wanted to touch base on how you would take one-on-ones, but unfortunately, we're short on time, Alberto. Probably we would do it again. I mean, this was a very
online. I'm LinkedIn. Ping me, and I'm always happy to share.
100%.
It's a pleasure
100%.
to be here. So thank you very much.
And yeah, even for our audience, like feel, and I hope I'm not like speaking out of turn, but they can always reach out to Alberto on LinkedIn and get
1,000%.
the.
If you're a early manager in your career, if you're a senior developer, if you are a VP of engineering, a director, it doesn't matter. Like I would love to learn, and I would love to give, as any other relation.
100%. Thank you, Alberto, for your time again. I'd like to also like to thank our audience for tuning in to Masters of Tech. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you.